Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar. Today's session will take approximately 1 hour. First, a couple of housekeeping items. If you have any questions during the presentation, please ask them using the Q&A feature located on your Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your screen. You'll be able to see questions from other attendees, so please feel free to upvote or like the questions that interest you. This will help us determine which questions to address live at the end of the session. Any questions that weren't answered will be addressed post-event. Please watch for an email tomorrow with further information and a link to the recording presentation. And now, I'd like to introduce our presenter, Norbert Nopper. Norbert is an active member of the 3D Formats Working Group that creates and maintains the glTF specification. Norbert is the Managing Director of UX3D, a company that provides state-of-the-art software solutions and products that utilize the power of the GPU. Norbert?
Thank you, Jeff. So welcome to the glTF Sample Viewer webinar, and it's an honor to do it something for Kronos again. Let me switch to the next screen. So let's talk about the agenda. I will do a short introduction about myself, current status, and maybe some of you ask, why doing a glTF Sample Viewer? There are a lot of viewers already out there, so I try to motivate this audience, like everybody, why there's this purpose for this glTF Sample Viewer. And I have some slides, a bunch of, but most will be a demo session, of course. And what I would like to show you, like of this new sample viewer, I would like to show like the general features, like what's new in the sample viewer, because there was previously a sample viewer. I would show you like the new physically based materials, because the 3D Formats group from Kronos, which is doing the specifications for glTF, made progress. And I also picked like there's new optimization features, because it's an important feature of glTF. And last but not least, new features for 3D Commerce. 3D Commerce is a group at Kronos as well, which is utilizing also glTF to visualize products in real time. And glTF is one 3D format of choice. Then I give a short outlook, mainly on the glTF sample viewer. And yeah, in the end, as Jeff already mentioned, we have time for question and answers. As Jeff already said, we have like in total, we have about 1 hour. I try to get finished like after 45 minutes. It depends how fast I am, how, let's see, yeah. So let's start. And I try, of course, to answer as many questions in the end. I see the questions which you are providing to me, and whenever I can't answer them for whatever reason, I will do it afterwards. Okay, so introduction. So as Jeff already said, I'm the managing director at UX3. We're a company based in Munich, Germany. And you see here some pictures of me. Actually, like I'm quite active on Twitter, LinkedIn, GitHub, and so on. And yeah, it's like that whenever you meet me online or in the GitHub Nexus, some people say it like this. Yeah, this is myself. I'm a managing director, but deep in my heart, I'm a computer scientist. I studied computer science. And yeah, last year I was saying 2 years, and now it's already 3 years, working now more than 3 years on glTF. I joined Kronos, or like the 3D Formats group, when they were starting or finishing somehow the version 2.0 of glTF. And since then, I'm quite involved in this great format. And last but not least, and that's the reason why we are doing at UX3D, showing this presentation, UX3D is contract for implementing the glTF sample viewer. So the glTF sample viewer is, of course, belongs to the Kronos group. It's open source. It has an Apache 2 license, but there has to be some folks to implement it. And luckily, we were allowed to do this. So thank you again. So motivation for the glTF sample viewer. I guess some of you already know what glTF is, but maybe some people are in the audience who are not so quite familiar with the glTF. So maybe try on one slide to give somehow impression what glTF is. So What is glTF? It's the graphics language transmission format. There are like 4 words. I think format is quite clear, but graphics language transmission format. And I try to interpret it in my way or how I would explain it. For me, glTF is an optimized 3D format. And why is it optimized? It means it has a reduced file size for transferring from server to client. It doesn't have to be, of course, just a server. It can be, of course, on your local disk as well, a glTF file. But to show you an extreme, in general, when you're doing web applications or AR applications, you need, in most cases, transfer something from A to B. And this data is, in general, it's like image data, it's vertex data. Vertex data is the stuff where you see on the right from my screen, like the mesh data that you can construct a 3D model, and many more, like animation data and so on. So this is very important to let me see. Okay, got it. Somebody raised their hand, so it's just that if maybe, I hope you guys hear me, but Lizzie and Chef are chatting to me if something's going wrong. Okay, let's continue. The other thing is a graphics processing unit that it's GPU friendly. And what does it mean? It's when you get the data, you guys probably know other 3D formats, but if you have glTF, you have minimal or no changes to use the data. That means in the best case, you can just upload it to the GPU. If you're doing WebGL, if you're using Vulkan, in the best case, it's just a mem copy to simplify this. In some cases, maybe depends on the driver, you have to adapt something, but in most cases, you have to, you don't have to do a lot. In the end, it's ready to draw the 3D content. With ready to draw, I mean, when you have, for example, DCC tools where you have like quads and stuff like this, normally they maybe are working quads or polygons or whatever, and the GPU in general likes triangles. Yeah, and in general, like the data what you have in there is are triangles, and it's like the best format what you have for your GPU. So that's mainly like the introduction for glTF. And next slide. So scope of the glTF sample viewer is, so why implementing a sample viewer? As I already said, you guys maybe know there's Babylon.js, there's 3GS, there's Filament, a lot of viewers out there. So why do it again? First, of course, glTF is a format from Kronos. So Kronos should provide somehow like a sample implementation. And the sample implementation, it's mainly like how to draw this 3D content. You know, you have a nice format. Basically, it's a JSON file. You have some binary data. But then most people or some people may be asking, how do I draw this content? And if you look at like these engines, you know, they're really engines, they're huge. And the point is like, how can I do this real-time physics-based running on the GPU? And that's the purpose, like to show people how can this be done? Because implicitly, you have to look at technologies like how to optimize, you hear physically based rendering, you see lighting and so on. And the point is like, or the goal is have the small code base for educational purpose. With educational purpose, of course, for universities, but for everybody who wants to implement an engine or render or wants to improve or adapt their renderer. And that's the reason why this sample viewer is lean and it may be not handling every corner case. It uses WebGL 2.0. And just because of this, the code gets much, much smaller. Yeah. So, and but the point is, if you look at the code, if you look at the shaders, NF everything, you see, oh, it's not a lot, and you see what you have to do. And I hope you guys understand, and then you can adapt it to your engine and to your framework. And last but not least, and that's since the beginning, the 3D commerce group wants to synchronize this glTF sample viewer to have the visual output. If you guys maybe can remember 2 or 3 years ago, there were like the comparison between like you have Babylon.js, 3GS, you have Filament, you have maybe Unreal Engine, you have Unity, and they were all doing everything right. But maybe they were interpreting, yeah, have a different lighting, they have a different tone mapping and so on. And yeah, and 3D commerce, what they want to do, they want to visualize a product and they want to see it like on this device or in this engine, it should almost look the same as on the other device. So that's the effort that the visual output of a glTF in 3D commerce looks the same. And that's another purpose why there's this glTF sample viewer. So the scope of this webinar, of course, I cheated a little bit. I got some answers in advance, and that I edited this like this morning, and that the people who are joined, that it's already there what potentially we could talk about in this webinar about glTF, because glTF is so large. I heard like I seen questions like, how can I generate glTF? How do I get from Blender, from Modo, from 3ds Max to glTF? How do I get from a different format like the Kronos format Collado or FBX to glTF? That's out of the scope of this webinar. Sorry for this, but and also like I had got the question like, how can I edit glTF? So also out of scope. There's a question, yeah, it's like the sample viewer is using a WebGL, but how can it be done with Vulkan? How can it be done with OpenGL? Also out of scope, to disappoint you a little bit. And of course, glTF is quite used a lot in XR. The sample view right now doesn't have a XR feature, so I'm not talking about this as well. And basically, glTF in its first step, it was originally like a web 3D format, but it like get more major. And of course, you can use glTF in web applications. You can use it on desktop applications. You can use it in a backend server rendering farm. You can use it in many cases. And of course, like the rendering technique you can choose. And a lot of people start to use ray tracing with glTF, either with a CPU or even like with the latest graphics hardware. You can do it like in real time, also like with the GPU. But I will also not talk about the ray tracing stuff, how you can do this in glTF. That's all. This is worth maybe to have a separate webinar. What I want to focus on is it's glTF and the sample viewer. And I will touch, of course, a little bit WebGL and a little bit rasterizing. And of course, I will a little bit touch 3D commerce and like how to do a digital twin for visualization, but it's only touching. And last but not least is because there are compression algorithms, I also will somehow a little bit touch Draco data compression and also like the new format KTX. But for KTX, this even is worth a separate message. So on this webinar, I really want to focus. I want to introduce you what's new in the sample viewer, what can be done, what's new, what's different. For everything else, provide questions. I try to answer, and maybe if there are so many questions, maybe the Kronos group is able to organize a new webinar just for a specific topic. This is the last slide to motivate you, and I call it the magic of glTF. For me, it's like, I think I did the first webinar in 2017 or 18 for Kronos, and these images were much, much smaller. But now it's like, for me, the magic is there. Of course, there are a lot of 3D formats out there. And of course, glTF by itself is great by just its concept and design. But what I like is that so many companies and even competitors are sitting together and say, yeah, let's design a new 3D format. And that's glTF. And it's, for myself, it can be utilized for next generation of product visualization. Of course, you can use it for computer games, and it doesn't have always to be like photorealistic rendering. It can be also used for toon shading or some more abstract rendering. You can use it for 3D maps, and I've seen simulation. You can use it for everything. Basically, it's a 3D format. So if you look, you have that ecosystem is growing, and like with the tool, then the industry support of glTF. These are like the members who are like also defining the format. But also, like, you have to look at the upper right. You have like companies supporting 3D commerce. It's a much larger list. And as I said, glTF is used by 3D commerce as well as a format of choice. So it gets used, it's larger, and it's worth just for this community, of course, to implement this sample here. Okay, so now I've talked a lot and you've seen some slides. And now I would like to start with the demo session. So what I will do is I will have always some slides to explain something, and in between I will also switch between like these presentation slides and the sample viewer. And yeah, let me open the browser because let's first look at. Oops. So like there are two links. There's like the sample viewer home. I call it like this. I will later just open this this URL. So here you get the source code of the sample viewer. It's located there. And also like on GitHub pages, you can see the live demo. So if you guys look at there, you can already open it. It's live. You can look at it and you will see something like this on your browser. And if your website layout is somehow scrambled, maybe you have revisited these pages before, and maybe in the last days we did do some change, just please reload the site and it should be okay. On the other side is maybe you have rendering issues. As I said, the sample viewer requires WebGL 2.0. If you want to know if your browser or whatever environment is supporting WebGL, you can look at here, also at other URLs. In the future, we will add a feature that you get noticed, that you don't have to do it manually or like you're confused, but we'll do it like this. So let's open the first URL. So this is like the official Git at GitHub. There's the sample viewer hosted at the Kronos group. It's a sample viewer. And what you already see by the screenshot, ooh, something changed. So there's a new README. You have it's a new structure regarding source code, etc. And as you already see, it's supporting much more extensions. So that's one great feature of glTF, that you have like extensions and that you can extend it. I will show some of them. I will show you just like what's possible and not. Okay. And okay, the other thing is, yeah, so let's open the web interface. Yeah, let's first look at it, that you guys see it. Oops, that's the wrong browser. So let's open it. So this is the sample viewer. It's live. You can, as usual, what you see, you can by drag and drop, you can move it around. And what's new is that to the right, there's a really nice UI system. And let me just introduce it, what's possible. So in general, you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections, and I will explain them, all of them. So let's first stay with the models. You have like all the sample models, what you have. So you can look at the boombox, and what you already see, like the loading performance increased much more. Yeah. And let's go back. And the other thing is, with Flavor, I mean, it's possible to store glTF in several ways. You can have a glTF, it's a JSON binary file, but you can also like put everything in a GLB file, and though it's sorted like this. And of course it looks the same, hopefully, because it's just stored differently. And then you can also look, oh, that's also new, already shown in advance. You can use Draco compression now in the sample viewer. Okay. Then you have different settings. You can say, let's go back to the damaged helmet, maybe. It's maybe a nice feature. So let's have here the damaged helmet. And what else you have is like, you can turn off image-based lighting and you see what's going on. So this helmet has an emissive color. So you see still this on, and you can still turn on the puncture lights, and then you just see the glowing of the helmet, which of the emissive parts. By default, there are always like 2 point lights included that you see something. So let's go like this and turn these off. And what's also new is like, you can say, I don't want to have the environment map. Then you have like a background color. You can choose it, or you want to have it, or you can, now you have like a blur feature because some people wanted to have it more artistic, and you can enable like the environment again. The point is like the resolution and how the quality of the background can be configured. I will later show like you the API, because the point is like we have now a separation between the GUI and the renderer. Yeah, but let's first finish like this, and then you can change the orientation, because some DCC tools, they have a different default setting of orientation. Currently is +Z because it's like the most common orientation. And yeah, you can add new HDR, which I will show later. And of course, you can switch between like the background and then the lighting changes. Okay, so let's go back. Good. So let's go back to the presentation to give you the overview. So I just showed you like some parts of the new web interface, but now I would like to show you somehow more like that there's an API now for the sample viewer, like for the coders out there. Let's go here. It's here. And if I go here, that we have, you can go like, now here the API, and now everything is described. So the goal is that you have like a rendering like a GUI, but on bottom of it you have like the render. And the nice thing, if you want to, let's say you don't want to have the GUI or you want to integrate the sample viewer somewhere else, it's much easier now. So it's like here, it's like defined for the coders, what parameters and so on. And what's also really nice is it's now an npm package. Like Kronos organized this and we uploaded. So as from, it's now like an npm package, and you can just download it like other npm packages. So that's what's highly required and demanded. And the documentation is similar, and it's like, yeah, we're improving it and updating everything. Okay, let's go back. So as I said, we improved the performance because one feature was missing the last time was if somebody wants to add like its own HDR map. And let me show it like this. Let's say you want to have your own environment map. And let's go to, let's keep it this one, because here you see like it's a scale one, and you say, I would like to have a better, let's go like this. Wait a minute. You want to have like a higher quality with a higher resolution, you can just drag and drop. And you, maybe I don't see it if you see it over the net, but the quality improved because this has a higher resolution. And now let's take really a huge one. This is like about 30 megabytes, and you see it's quite fast. And now you see also like the quality of the helmet. It's much better. And this is like an improvement, much improvement. So, and what also is nice that if you switch now from one element to the other element, it's first the environment, what you have just loaded stays. And the other thing, it's quite fast to change. Like this was a major improvement, like for the sample viewer, that you can really like use and try out for production. Yeah, and the point is like there's no reloading of the required data anymore. So the major improvement was here, and there was a request from the Kronos and the 3D commerce group. Let's make this faster. Yeah. So it's the people are always happy. Yeah, it looks nice, but please make it faster. So this is like the overall reason why we did this. Yeah. Good. Before I start with the new physics-based material, I would go over again about like all the sections what's possible. So let's see. It's to explain a little bit more like what's possible. Like scenes. If most glTF only have one scene, so in most cases you will see only here one element. But if like you have a glTF with several scenes, you can here switch between. But let's take, for example, another asset, and the toy car, for example. And you already see like new features of glTF, but I will explain it later. And here you can switch the user camera. Like in glTF, you can store cameras, and now it's possible like inside the sample viewer, like between all these cameras. So that's a new feature. And as I said, you can turn on image-based lighting, puncture light, environment background. I showed this animation. So this asset is not animated. So let's take something which is animated. For example, this animated cube. Yeah. So it's now possible, of course, like you have these animations. It's maybe a little boring. You can here pause it. You can play it. And here, if an asset has several animations, you can enable and disable it. And the nice thing is, if you guys maybe tried it out, Microsoft has a nice default asset on your Windows 10 PC. You just have to discover it. And yeah, let's open it. It's this B from Microsoft, and also like the assets, you can now drag and drop them in. Yeah, so you see this little B. It's already in the right environment, and you see like this is like the idle animation, and that's maybe some of you people quite new. You can have, of course, several animations in glTF, and this is like the idle animation. But let's turn this off, and now it's just still. Yeah, but let's turn on the hover. Yeah, so I can turn between like the animations. You can inspect it. Yeah. Oh, I turn it off, and yeah, there's another animation where the bee takes off and lands. Yeah, so that's now possible in the sample viewer. And I think what's also important is you guys already know, you already seen in the beginning. So the file is quite large. So this is poly. Some of you already know it's like it was like one of the first assets we created, where in the first step you see all what's possible with glTF. So you have like transparency, cartonnage, and so on. And yeah, here come to the advanced controls. XMP I will show later. So for example, if you look, and most people probably don't know, these eyes are morphing, and you can like turn off like morphing, and now like the eyes are still. So you can like inspect and debug your asset. And the other thing is like you can turn off skinning, and now it stands still. The animation is still going on. And how do I know? It's like you can change the user camera. This is the first one, and the second one is like the cinematic animation. Yeah, so it's like the camera is animated, and I can turn on skinning again, and then yeah, Poddy gets back to life. And what's more here? Yeah, let's take a different model. So maybe the toy car again, and take this user camera. Oh, no, that's too far. Yeah, this is a nice perspective. So you have this, and normally most people have like with tone mapping none, or we're doing just the normal gamma correction because we're doing HDR lighting. But currently in discussion, and that was requested, and this was talked, we have like implemented 3 ACES film tone mapping. And some of you guys know this algorithm from Mr. Hill. Then there's improved one from Markowicz, which already changes the color. And last but not least, 3D Commerce is currently discussing about this. ACES colors and tone mapping is a topic on its own, which we should really discuss in a separate task. But the point is you can now switch between these tone mappings that you can look how it looks like with a different tone mapping. Good. Let's go back to the user camera that I can move around. And let's go back to the slides. And yeah, so let's show this. I would like, they are like new materials, and the Kronos group decided that we are not giving all extensions on new materials in a one big blob to the community. The goal was that let's do it step by step, and I would like to show you like clear code, sheen, and transmission. To the left is like you see like the name, but you have clear code, you have sheen and transmission. And onto the right is these are like the official extension names. So let's switch back to the sample viewer. And already this is like, this asset, it was actually created like, it has all these extensions in there, and that you see it. So let me really turn off a lot of extension. That's a new feature as well. You can turn off features in glTF. Yeah. And the point is like, yeah, this gets dark. Why? Because yeah, the transmission is not on, but let's turn it on. And then you can see through it, and you have like a transmission effect. Yeah, transmission is a better, let's say, effect to have like a transmission effect, and you see like you see through it. It's not just alpha blending; it's really a transmission effect. And where like you're there are several passes to create this image. So there's first the background rendered, and then it's like possible to sample there, because if like you have a rough material, you see it. Yeah. The other thing is let's keep this on sheen. Yeah, it's completely changing now. I turn it off and on. It's like you have like, if this is like a normal dielectric material, But if you put it on sheen, you have really like, you get this thingy, this color. And last but not least, like clear coat. Of course, you can do like this metallic stuff, but there's the clear coat is like this extra effect on any metallic, or especially on cars, which is making it more rough, or you can do it differently. You can also look at other models. Let's look at the sheen cloth. And maybe here you see it closer. And let's go to advanced controls. And let's take a different environment map that you see it better. I think footprint code. Yeah, if you really look close, you see like this purple shiny thing. And if you turn it off, it's like this effect when you have like this shimmer effect on clothes. And if I put sheen on, it's coming like, now this purple. If I put it off, it's gone. So this is like this effect. I think there's another asset you can try out. Let's take the sheen share. It's a share. It has also sheen. And yeah, you see it, the difference. Yeah. The Chronoscope will probably offer more, like you will see more samples in the future that you have the difference. You see like the feature. Good. Let's jump to the next. Let's see if I have like assets downloaded here. Yeah, for transmission. Yeah, let's take this one. So this is transmission, and you see like the Stanford Dragon. Let's put it on. I take these others on, and then it's getting a little bit fancier. But let's put on puncture lights, and you see like you can still puncture light. Like here in the back, you're like puncture lights. If I turn them off, you see like this glass-based dragon. And this is like a thin transparent thing, but it's already working that you can place like puncture lights in the back. And yeah, you have this transmissive effect, even if with dynamic lights and so on. Good. Let's go to the next slide. Let's go to optimization. And because it's one big, because that you can reduce transmission size, or the transmission size from, or it's this it's a different transmission. But the point is like you want to transfer a glTF from A to B. It's always to reduce the size of the data, and there are like several possibilities to do this. So either you can use Draco mesh compression. It's a compression algorithm from Google, and there's this Draco mesh compression. It's quite some time out there, but it's now included in the sample viewer. And then we have extended mesh quantization, which is you want to store like, you have data and you use floats, and maybe you just want to store it somehow in half shorts or in half integers. And last but not least, with KTX version 2 and BasisU compression, you have like a super compression to reduce the file size of the texture. So let's show this as well. And some of them are not already in the repository. And let's take it. Let's take the duck, because here I have everything. So in general, like if you have the duck, you notice this well-known asset. This is from like quite basic. But let's take this BasisU, and you see it's utilizing a KTX2 file. If you look at the file, okay, not that's the generator. Yeah, it's required. It's using the texture BasisU compression. And what's now possible is like I can take this duck and drag and drop in, and it works. So the point is the sample viewer can now use like KTX2 files and with Basis super compression. And I just showed you, of course, like the file itself, that you guys believe me that I did not cheat or something like this. Okay. So let's load this again, start again over that you see. And then here I have the Draco, the same. I just resetted it that you see like I have a different asset now. It's like the damaged helmet. It's again the duck. And here is the like the extension which is used is the Draco mesh compression. Let's do the same. And yep, it goes really quite fast. Of course, like the asset is small, but you can utilize Draco mesh compression. And last but not least, new feature quantized. Again, let's open it. Yeah, it's using two extensions, texture transform, which is not important right now, but the quantization. You take it, drag and drop, and it works. So, and the nice thing is you can really, I did not really make a comparison of how small the file is, but you can check it out like here in the bottom, here like statistics. You can look at like how big the mesh count is, the triangle count, how many opaque materials are there, and how many transparent materials. So you get some statistics of your asset, which is quite convenient. Okay. So let's go back to the slides. So showed you like geometry compression, quantization, BasisU, and new features of 3D commerce. And I will show you like, oops. Possibilities like one extension is to have multiple material variants. And this can be not just, of course, like the demand is coming from 3D commerce. And the idea behind it is that you can have multiple materials in one per mesh or primitive. And of course, you could utilize this in other use cases as well, maybe for games. And then also like metadata that you can store metadata. So let's show this. And I think this is available. So let's start it over again. That here it's used, we choose yeah, the sheen chair. And if a glTF file has a variant, this comes up. If you don't have it, like the duck, it disappears. So it only appears when this asset has a variant. And let's take the sheen chair again. And actually, like you have like the same 3D model, but you want to have like a mango velvet or peacock velvet variant. And if it's set to none, it means the variant extension is deactivated. So let's switch to mango velvet, and it stays the same. The reason for this is like the default variant. But if I switch now to peacock velvet, you see like, oops, yeah, you just changed it, the variant of it. And that's a great feature because you just uploaded the geometry once and the material also once, but maybe just the variant of it. And that's optimized. You can reduce like texture data and image data. The other thing is it's XMP. So it's little this thing. In most cases, you don't see anything. And this XMP extension is currently still, it's not yet final, but we already implemented. So let's take this. It's just a simple cube. Yeah, you see a nice preview here. So the interesting part of this cube, of course, it's just a cube, but the point is like you can now add metadata to it. Yeah, like format, like stock, whatever. It's like XMP is a topic on its own, and for me, it's basically just JSON. But the people who knows better XMP, they can tell you probably much more about XMP. But in the end, you can now add metadata to your glTF assets, which is of course quite important for 3D commerce. But maybe for different topics, it's quite interesting as well. Yeah, it's 40 minutes are already over, so I still have like 5 to 10 minutes left. And I would like to give you like an outlook. And I give you like a sneak demo. It's not final, it's a work in progress. And like this is like the phase 2 of PBR Next material. So it's like index of refraction that you can have like for the electric materials, you can define the refraction by an IOR value. Then that you have specular glossiness parameters. The idea behind this most people are currently using like the metallic roughness workflow in glTF, and what the people are missing that they cannot. And in this workflow, like for the electrics, like the refraction or the reflection, it's always the same. And there's the specular glossiness extension in glTF, which is doing this, but for that you need extra data. But time passed, and now it's like, yeah, we want to manipulate this value as well. And that's the reason why there's this extension that you have these parameters as well. And for specular glossiness parameter, I don't have a nice demo, but I would like to show you like the volumes extension. It's the work in progress. It's not yet done. It's what I showed you before. I showed you like this dragon, and it has like assumed that the transparency of this object is like really thin, almost like just a soap bubble or maybe a thin glass, which I have next to me here. But the point is, in many cases, you have a lot of materials where you have thick materials. And let's show this now. It's not yet included here, but let's make this larger. And I have prepared, let's take this dragon here in. And now you come to a point, let's take the background, don't blur it. And now you see like, I have turned it out like what we have now, you have like volume here. And you see like, it's now reflecting totally different like with the background. I can even turn around and it's taking the light from the background into account. Yeah, as you see. And I turn on punctual lights again because there are like 2 lights added here. You don't see it in the scene, but they are there. And it's like you have the same effect like before, but now they are like, it's really thick and it's refracted and inside the volume. It's not final yet, it's still a work in progress. But from my perspective, people who love real-time rendering, it's a really nice effect because this is in ray tracers, you see them and already there, it's really tough. And of course, this is like an approximation, but if you would like to visualize like gems or other materials, like this is like the effect of choice. And you can inspect it already here. This is like a work in progress. You can turn off the volume and now it behaves differently. I think it does, yeah, it has IOR in it. So let's reset it to like this, like what we had before with the punctual light. I add like the IOR, and you already see it has some effect because it's reflecting now differently. It doesn't have specular, so it has no effect. And now I turn on the volume, and now it behaves totally different. And now it has really a volumetric. And that's just coming soon. It's close to final. And maybe in 1 month or 2, I will do another webinar where I can show you deep what is going on. And yeah, the nice thing is like Babylon JS is supporting it, 3GS is supporting it, our Gestaltor or glTF editor is supporting it, Filament is supporting it, and yeah, there's a big list who will support this extension. So really excited about this one because it really looks great from my perspective. Good. Yeah, that was the outlook. And now it's 45 minutes, so I'm really in time. So let me first close a lot of stuff. But let's keep it open, maybe I still need it. So as Jeff and Lizzie already said, this session is recorded and you will get an email with updates, content, if you guys want to have something shared. And just revisit the page where we visited. And now we come to the question answering session. We have about 15 minutes left, which is good because then I can go into details because I just, of course, can scratch the surface. So if you have questions I could not answer or I had no time or were out of scope during this session and now, let's connect me over LinkedIn or write me an email. And last but not least, and that's because the managing director of UX3, please try out the latest Gestaltor, the Visual glTF editor. There's a community version and a professional version, and the community version is for free. And now I give back the words to Jeff to give like to the next step and the question and answers. So thank you first. Thank you for listening. Yeah.
Thank you, Norbert. I have a question from Yuki Shimada. Thank you for the awesome speech. Lately, glTF PBR Next extensions are nice, but currently, in order to support these extensions, it is necessary to implement them by referring to the spec for each extension and related papers. This is challenging but hard work. Is there any plan for Kronos community to have a comprehensive document on glTF PBR Next, like the following document style? And then there's a link. Are
Yeah,
we going to have a comprehensive document?
I mean, currently, like if you go to the I try to understand it. Currently, like we have glTF 2.0 where you have like a markdown document, yeah. And for each extension, we have a documentation for the effect, yeah. So for volume and so on, I don't know, and maybe it makes sense to make like an overall document where you can really just read it through from A to B and you have everything at one place. And maybe that's a good suggestion what we should tell the 3D formats group. So I think this is the point, is like people want to have it like in one place. And of course, like on GitHub, you have to click through like to here and here, but already there you need to know what you do. And the point is that yeah, I think we should just communicate. It makes sense, maybe like a really document, like a PDF, or which you read from first page to last page, and you know exactly what you want to do.
Excellent.
No, a lot of questions popped up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a question. Are the only extensions available in the viewer? Those are listed in the advanced control section. Are those all the extensions available? If not, how do you enable additional extensions?
Yeah, at this point of time, like let's say in the future we want to add more extension. Of course, you have to code it. Of course, the sample viewer has to understand the glTF or the extension that it can do something. If the extension is not known to the sample viewer, normally it should just ignore it. But if you want to add it by yourself, as I showed you, like the API, you can get it like the source code, and you can implement it by yourself. And you say, if it's a good implementation or if it's an official extension, yes, please make a pull request to the Kronos repository. It's open source. That's the reason for it. If you see improvements, even mistakes, make a pull request and say, here's a new extension. And of course, if you have like a vendor extension, let's say I have my UX3D super special extension, and maybe like some people say no, it should not be in the sample viewer. That's the reason why there's this pull request format, that because not every extension should maybe come in. But in general, you could extend the sample viewer by itself. But of course, it's not like it's not happening like automatically or by magic. Of course, you have to code something. Yeah. But the point is, in that if the extension is into glTF and you drag and drop in the extension in the sample viewer, and the sample viewer understands it, it shows. Yeah.
Wonderful. And one last question: how can someone get more involved with glTF?
Yeah, there are several possibilities. First, there's like this GitHub repository from the Kronos group where the glTF specification is and hosted. There you can raise issues, and there you can add comments or even making pull requests regarding mistakes or suggestions. But of course, and I would like to try me to like, you can join the Kronos group. And as an individual, you can join it as a small company, you can join it as a big company, and then you can really join the weekly discussions with the 3D formats group, and you can start steering and shaping the future of glTF. So it depends on your professionality and what you want to do with glTF.
Wonderful. And thank you, Norbert, for the excellent update on glTF. Sounds like there are some exciting things ahead. And thank you all for your time today. We hope you enjoyed the webinar. A recording of this presentation along with the slides will be available on the Kronos Group website tomorrow. A direct link will be sent to you in a follow-up email. Also, as you leave the webinar, please take a moment to fill out the survey that pops up. Your feedback is important to help us improve these presentations. Please let us know if there are other Kronos-related topics you may be interested in. With that, have a great day. Thank you, Norbert.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Lissy. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and let's connect. See you.